This is Dr. John with Introduction to Sociology. Welcome to our first lecture. And this lecture will just be talking about the origins a little bit and the definition of sociology. With me is Sherry. She's my assistant. She's going to keep me on track, I hope. And I hope you enjoy yourself with this lecture. So what is sociology? Sociology is a field that began with the ideal of solving social problems scientifically. It studies every field of human interaction, from social structures like the state to small groups or individuals as they are affected by others. This is the American Sociological Association definition, so I'm just going to read this verbatim. Sociology is the study of social life, social change, and the social causes and consequences of human behavior. Sociologists investigate the structure of groups, organizations, and societies, and how people interact within these contexts. Since all human behavior is social, the subject matter of sociology ranges from the intimate family to the hostile mob, from organized crime to religious traditions, from the divisions of race, gender, and social class to the shared beliefs of a common culture. So let's put this in a different perspective, as it were. So two different sociologists help to define sociology in different ways. One is called Peter Berger, and he introduced a concept called the sociological perspective. And the idea of the sociological perspective is to see the social world, as it were, within a single instance. So let's, for example, take something from the physical sciences. Isaac Newton. Here's a guy, he's sitting under a tree, minding his own business. Looks like he's texting, actually. And suddenly, boing, an apple falls on his head. And Isaac Newton says to himself, "Why did this fall on my head?" Goes home to his wife, and the wife says, "You nincompoop, everything those things fall. Why didn't you bring the apple home for apple pie?" Anyway, that wasn't what Isaac Newton was thinking about. He wasn't thinking about that apple. He was thinking about the general principle. Why do things fall? And of course, people had thought about this before, but Isaac Newton came up with a unique response, which is he said, every piece of mass, every object has something called mass, and mass has something called gravitational attraction. A very small force, but when you have something the size of the planet Earth, it's going to attract. So what's happening is the apple doesn't fall, it's attracted to the Earth. Now this is a particular event. What about the general? Well, this, then you apply it to the universe, you say, well, this explains why the planets revolve around the sun without spinning off into space. It explains why when we jump up, we don't just float away, but rather we're brought back down. And the point is, since we can look at the proportionality, we can determine exactly the mass of an object by the amount of gravitational pull or attraction that it has. Brilliant. And so how do we apply that to sociology? You think about when you see something, there's somebody who's poor, who's begging. You say, why is he poor? We're a wealthy country. Why doesn't somebody just give him a bunch of money? Well, you have to think about, what does this say about the society we live in, or about social processes in general, that we have poor people, that we have people starving, that you have children without enough food, right? So when we think about things in that way, we're looking at something that happens, and instead of just saying, look, it happened again, we say, why? Why is this happening? And it happens again and again and again. It's a pattern. And when you find a pattern, that means there's something underneath it that is causing that pattern to happen. Just like the ripple on a river shows that there's a stone underneath. Now, another perspective or point of view is by this guy named C. Wright Mills. Again, another very prominent sociologist of the 1950s. And he wrote a book called The Sociological Imagination. And the idea of the sociological imagination is to say, look, when you look at something, you have to use your imagination to understand the context. So, for example, look at this child. He seems to be a cute kid. He's playing, got on a cute sweater. And you say to yourself, you are passing by, yeah, look, that kid's having a good time. But look at the context. For example, you can see he's out in the middle of nowhere. There's a mountain in the background. There's grasslands around. But yet, there's a paved road right out smack in the middle of nowhere. And it seems to be going for miles and miles. Where did this road come from? So a road of that nature indicates a certain level of technology, right? A fairly sophisticated society that this child lives in. He's not there in a bubble. He lives within a social context where you have roads of that kind, right? And then you look at what he's wearing or what he has on. He's got his wings apparently, looks maybe like jet rockets. He's got goggles on, this, that, and the other. Maybe looks like he's pretending to be a pilot, right? So on the one hand, you could say, well, is this what all children do? How do children grow up? They take on roles. They pretend to be things. They often imitate things that they think are adult things they've seen on TV or on the movies, or they maybe know from personal experience. But also think about the level, right? I mean, 1,000 years ago or 100 years ago, children would not be playing in this kind of a way. They would have different types of games, given their level of technology in their society. So we can understand quite a bit about the society this child lives in, about the history, about maybe his own biography, just by looking at this one picture. So it's using your imagination, looking into the evidence and saying, what is this telling me? So what is the point of this? We live in a society with many issues and problems. And what we want to do is to help solve them or at least navigate them as individuals. Right? You can take it either way. You can say, I'm going to solve the problems of the world, or at least I'm going to understand the problems so I can avoid them in my personal life. Right? So either way, we can use sociology to our benefit. Now, what my way of seeing sociology as a field, when we relate it to the other social sciences, is I think of sociology as the master social science. Because sociology, as we've said before, deals with every single aspect of social interaction. So on the one hand, of course, you have political science. Political scientists deal with the state, with politics. Of course, political scientists think they're very important because, wow, we deal with politics. But politics by itself doesn't really make any sense. Right? Politics has to be about a society. What are the values of that society? What are the economic needs of that society? Right? Now, of course, you have a field called anthropology that deals with culture, right? The norms and values of society. Anthropologists usually are images, they go off to some other society and come back and write their books. There's also physical anthropology, which deals with the development of men. But either way, the point is, again, anthropologists are looking at one part of the whole social framework. If you go into economics, you'll be studying market behavior, Adam Smith's invisible hand. Oh, that's visible. Invisible hand. You'll be looking at supply and demand. But economics is actually not just about market behavior. It's really about everything we as a society do to survive. So it deals with the way, the method of production in a given society, the way households contribute to the economy, the way that communities and road systems, all of these are a part of economics. But again, because it's divorced from the other social sciences, economists very often go off on their own. Then you have psychology that deals with the individual. And of course, psychology has On the one hand, deals with the biology of the brain structure, and that may affect your ability to operate as a human being. But there's also social conditioning and problems you've had during upbringing, at least that's what psychology argues, that affect the way you work, interact with the world. So this is social pressures on the individual. Um, and again, biology itself. So biology deals with the development of, at least as it refers to humans, or what we would call physical anthropology, deals with the genetic structure of the human and how the human has evolved. But again, when you look at the big picture is given to us by sociology. Because as we've said, sociology deals with all forms of social behavior. So from the individual level of the psychologist to the political collective decision making, the cultural values and norms, the way we survive as a human species, and our genetics, all of these are interacted within this realm of sociology. We study political sociology, cultural sociology, economic sociology, social psychology, social biology, and a lot of other fields that interrelate between these. So what do sociologists do? Well, you might ask, what don't they do, since we cover every field? So think about when people go to space, they're social creatures. We can study the sociology of space. When people are involved in science, we can study that. Or health problems such as diseases, COVID-19, technology and changes in work routines and work practices, business and business behavior, all of these relate back to social patterns of behavior. So sociologists do a lot of research in these areas. Uh, they're also vital to many government programs, whether you're working as a researcher or you're working as an implementer or an analyst. You could work poverty alleviation, education, public health, military defense. Every area of our government requires the help of sociologists. One thing sociologists do is finding new ways of looking at social problem. Again, applying the sociological imagination, applying the sociological perspective, not just saying, oh, look at that cute kid or look at that poor old man, but saying why? What is going on here? What is the context that is creating these forces? Because if there's a problem, it isn't an individual problem. It's a social problem. And evaluating programs that are designed to help people. So many projects exist, many programs exist, a lot of money gets thrown at social problems. Do they help? Are they actually helping people or are they hurting people? Just quickly go over some of the careers in sociology. So if you're interested in studying sociology and going on to work with sociology as a degree, so for example, even with an AA, you can work in customer service or human resources or enter business management programs because you will benefit from the sociological ability to understand human interaction, to be able to put yourself in the foot of, or in the feet, in the shoes, as it were, of somebody else. A bit more studying with an MA or a BA, you can do market research or similar type of research for companies or for government agencies. This allows you to use your research and analytical skills applied to social behavior. If you're more adventurous, you want to travel the world, you could do charity or development work. This benefits from your ability to analyze and research social problems and create solutions, innovative solutions to help deal with them. You also may go into law, perhaps, legal practice, because law requires the ability to research and analyze an issue and then put together a clear and compelling argument. And that's what sociology will do. Uh, More advanced, we go into government or corporate research, searching for solutions to problems, when a crisis happens, how do people react? How do these projects help people or hurt people? Looking into terrorist cells and how they operate. So there's all types of different venues and opportunities to use sociological skills. And of course, teaching and scholarship, doing basic research or independent research on issues that you choose and that are important to you. So thank you. This is the end of our first lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you come back for the second. And keep in mind, with each lecture, we have a companion document. So read that document. It will have a review of the keywords. It will have usually a bibliography if you want to do any additional reading. It will have also an assignment. So there is an additional reading or video for each lecture, and maybe very often an essay question. The essay is something you do and you share with your tutor or your parent or whoever is helping you with your work for this class, and it's up to them how they grade that or take care of that. See you next time. Bye.